make peace with slow progress? What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Grind.
BTG.
If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. Our podcast is for those who want to go beyond the grind. My name is Kay.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Tosin. And guys, today I've got a confessional.
Oh, are we a priest or something?
I think he's on this podcast by himself.
No. So here, check, right?
Okay.
Because through the beginning of this year, I've been kind of thinking about all of the activities that I've been having in business, right? And one thing that kind of caught up to me was that I'm not really patient with slow progress. You know, it's not that. So let me give you an example of the CPA firm. We started back in 2010. And I've told this story, many times on this podcast where, my wife got me my first client. That kind of grew to them referring more clients to us. And as we were growing organically and it became something, I left my job, bought my first business, and then started, the CPA firm, full-time entrepreneurial, all that good stuff around 2014, and then kind of started growing from there. Now, when I'm talking about slow progress is that the CPA firm was growing, right? But we needed to add things because we weren't really good at advertising and marketing to be able to get people, because anytime we do like Google ads, it would be the wrong people that come. So we kind of killed all of those things. All right. We didn't have Alan back then, all right, to help us with the ads. But so we implemented, acquisition strategies, right? Where we would acquire other CPA firms because I'd done it once. So over time, we did it a couple more times. So we bought a couple more CPA firms and everything was going well. And I was like, because I had done it a few times, I think I kind of, maybe had this mentality, maybe I didn't even realize it myself, but that mentality of maybe that Midas touch, everything you touch turns to gold, right? So there was this opportunity to buy another CPA firm, and it was way, way, way more expensive than everything else that we have ever acquired, even all put together. However, we looked at the numbers, we dissected it. It wasn't just me that looked at and analyzed it and so on and so forth. But I saw, once I kind of looked at the numbers and they look good, what started creeping in was that, Tosin, this company can take you to the scale that you've always been looking for. This company can, take you to, it can multiply your efforts rather than you running a race that might take you 10 years. This acquisition now will take you, maybe cut it down to 2 years. And I got sold by that. However, not all that glitters is gold, all right?
You got dust.
Not all that glitters is gold, all right? So that's what that's one of the examples. I've got a few, as we're talking.
Let me ask you this, though. At any point there in that time, were you scared? Or did you get a gut feeling like maybe, did any red flags hit during that time? Or were you just so like,
I wouldn't know.
Dazzled by the light, drawn to the light?
I think that's what it is, right?
Nothing in your head thought like maybe this could go wrong.
It might have been there. But what was much louder, right? What was much more evident, like to everything I was doing,
and the numbers made
was
sense. So
the ability to scale, because that's what I was building my business to. I wanted to scale. I wanted to be, that business that is, has multiple employees. It has lots of different experts in different fields, and I just felt this would get us to that point much faster. And that was the only thing that was like the loudest thing in my head right now.
But I feel like that was good. That was a necessary step in your evolution.
Possibly.
And growth. Because you learn a lot. School of hard knocks. They call that continuing education, actually.
Hey,
In my industry.
expensive.
Expensive, yeah. You pay for it in school, you pay for it afterwards.
I look at it from a different perspective because obviously me being an advisor, I've been in situations where I've noticed entrepreneurs, saying that they're ready to scale, but the ambition doesn't match the reality in which they're operating in, right? I was reading something this morning and it says that progress doesn't always move at the pace we expect. And in business, that can feel frustrating, discouraging, or even like failure.
Tell me about it.
So I've had clients where, they make one move, right? It helps their business. They make another move. It helps their business. And now they think that because the first and the second move was successful, they can do 10 times that.
Yeah.
The past moves.
Right.
Maybe you acquire something for $100,000. It worked. The second time you acquired it for $100,000.
Why you giving them my story?
It worked. Now all of a sudden you're like, man,
$1 million. 1 million.
Let's just go all in.
Let it go, baby. And that's what I was talking about. That's that Midas touch. Like the way you were scaling, now because you're jumping or leaping, there's more risk involved.
Yes.
That's why I really wanted to talk about, like you said, like, hey, can we make peace with slow progress?
I think it's difficult. I think you need a mentor because I've been there too, as you know. And I think we just see like the potential. The potential is so strong. And when you're a motivated or driven individual and you have your goals, and when you're in that mind frame, you could put a mountain. You're running, you're getting onto the other side, whether it's over, around, under, it doesn't matter. Nothing, it's really hard. You have to have, somebody who's a voice of reason that you trust and has been there and can actually ask you the necessary questions that in the worst case scenario, if this fails, because it is a reality, you may think it's not.
No.
We don't know because we can't see the future, but there is a percent of it that it is a reality, right? Or possibility. If this fails, how will you feel? If this fails, where will you be at? If the answer is that, I'm okay with that. This is a risk I'm willing to take, and you know what it exactly looks like, then, I've done my job as someone giving you advice. Sometimes you got to let people hit their head as long as they're okay with the failure that comes with it. So that's because everything is hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Because it could have gone great, right?
It could have.
It could have.
We would have a different podcast today.
but you got to go with Bill Belichick, right? Nothing cute, nothing sexy, right? You just got to get slow and steady, 2-yard play, 3-yard play, and every now and then you finally get the pop touchdown. But nobody wants that, right?
By the way, my man Bill Belichick got snubbed for that Hall of Fame.
So, okay, we're talking about making peace with slow progress,
Yes.
right? I have not experienced, what you've just described, in your business, but obviously as an employee, that is something that I've experienced several times. The reality is that slow progress, especially as an employee, I think sometimes it gets really personal. And the reason why I say it gets personal is because all your efforts are visible by you, but the outcome is controlled by others.
Yeah.
So you feel a sense of frustration. I remember when I first graduated from uni, my first job out of high school was a financial analyst. I was working in the bank, right? And I was doing everything I was doing. I was hitting deadlines. I was being dependable. I was hitting all the goals, but yet I felt stuck, right? And I noticed that while I was working, doing everything that I was supposed to do, I see other people being promoted around me.
Oh, man.
And that led to a lot of frustration. And I think what was missing was the fact that a couple of things needed to be in place. Number one, there was a misalignment. Misalignment from the standpoint that the job in which I was operating at, there wasn't the next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the opportunity for me to get something was not there. That was number one. Number two, timing was off, right? And then number three, there wasn't any incentive, for me that I could essentially take advantage of, right? And here's the biggest part. Even though I felt like I was hitting everything and I was doing what I was supposed to do, the one fact still remained. I have yet to acquire the necessary skills for me to take that next leap, that next level, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but are you ready for that next step? Are you ready for that next challenge? And guess what? Because I was so impatient, I left the job to go to another place, gave me all the responsibility, and I said, maybe I kind of moved a bit too fast. Because at that point, it was like, I didn't have the leadership skills. I didn't have the decision-making skills. There were a lot of things that I relied on people around me with that when I became independent, I didn't have these people around me anymore. And then I was like, okay, you know what? Even though I was doing everything I was supposed to do, the timing for me to take that next leap wasn't right. So in the future, if I get to a place where I'm feeling stuck, I need to sit back and look at it from a big perspective. Am I making small progress? And where I want to go ultimately, do I have what it takes to be able to get that? So it just depends on how you look at it.
I think it's interesting. You kind of gave us the business owner perspective, employee perspective. So I'm going to give us the entrepreneur perspective. No, I think it's kind of interesting. I think the core thing that's central to this every time is that you don't know what you don't know. And for those of you out there who are watching this, take it from us and just take a step back. Take a breath before you make any big leaps. Because with big leaps come big risks. Big wins also come big failures.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it should hinder you, but it does mean you need to appropriately allocate the amount of loss that may be associated with that risk.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we minimize the amount of risk involved in the big gain. Usually you don't get little risk, big gain. It's usually, it's just not how life or laws of nature and physics work, right? In general. Every now and then you might get some like that, but it's usually stolen.
Well, like
every now and then,
all social media does is like they show us that leap, right? I opened up social media one day. There was a guy on there saying, "Oh yeah, I turned $100 into $10,000 in one
How
day."
did you get $1 million?
It's like I'm like,
so most people don't know that most successful, millionaires are mid 40s and later 50s. Not everyone. You open social media, everyone's 20 years old, 18 years old,
making $10 million.
And you're like, dang, what about me? No, that's not the actual reality.
Yeah.
Most people don't break 300K to like 45. Seriously, like most millionaires. And most millionaires that are multi-millionaires are like late 50s, late 60s. So if you feel like you're, in your 30s and you're like, man, I'm so behind, you're not.
Yeah.
You're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But as the entrepreneur mindset, I have the privilege of kind of advising a friend of mine who he's in a position where he was opening up dental practices. But he's looking at my other friend who has like 25 of them. And he's wanting to do everything he wants. He's like, in like 2-3 years, I'm like, bro, he's been doing this for like 16, 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
Like he didn't go from, and he was like, but he was just a 10 like 3 years ago. Now I'm like, cause the first like 12 years he was had two partners to get to like 8 or 9, and then the next 2 years he added 2 more, and then just the last like 3-4 years he cracked the code and he's like, okay, I know how to scale. Like you're trying to go from 1 to 12 in 3 years. It's not impossible. It's just that you have to break it down to the little steps he took.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he did this. I'm like, he will be the first one to tell you he failed so many times. Failed so many times. Yeah. But he also learned how to take smaller steps and to see the whole picture rather than rushing into it. My friend's still headstrong, so Every day he's telling me what he's going to do, and I'm giving him advice of, did you think about this? What about this? I say, why is it every time I say something, you're telling me the negative? I'm not telling you the negative.
No.
I'm telling you the reality. And this is a possibility. So if you're going to consider all the positives, you need to consider all the negatives and weigh them together.
We dreamers, we get emotional about that dream. I can just, I did it.
Yeah, we all dream.
My wife is a hard naysayer. For some reason, I was able to convince her on that dream. Maybe I don't think she was fully sold, but I think the way I was emotional about it, it was like she was like, I think she had to give in, or give up the pushback because, but it's. We kind of get locked into that
sometimes. I know.
No. But what I'm saying is that we don't listen to it. Though. We don't listen to it because we're so pigeonholed and focused into that dream that we've got. We gotta run. I've gotta get to that next level.
But let's slow down here though, because you guys did talk about it with social media, how people just want to see the instant gratification aspect of it, right? But the reality is that people don't stall because of lack of courage. They stall because they jump before they're ready to actually take action.
Exactly.
And sometimes you got to recognize the season in which you're in. Are you in a season of acquiring knowledge or building relationships? Whatever that is going to prep you for that next step. Does that make sense?
Right.
And that's where the peace has to come in, where you say, you know what? As long as I know more than I knew yesterday, or as long as I've gained one additional relationship than I had yesterday, then it's okay. I'm making progress. But if you want to jump from, level 1 all the way to level 10,
right?
And see,
skip all the
skills
steps
that you've had, that you need to acquire between level 1 through 9. You didn't acquire that.
You don't know what you don't know,
You don't know what you don't know. So if it's for Tosin, in your situation, if let's say you were at level 1 and you want to get to level 10. If you had somebody who was already at level 10 coming with you, then it makes perfect sense, right? But if you're just being ambitious and you say, you know what? Look at the guy over there. He doesn't have 2 heads. So if he can do it, I can do it. But what you fail to realize is that he's had to pay his dues to get to where he's at. And I think that's what we have to focus on.
Basically, the summary is that we got to find a shortcut.
That's not the summary.
It's who, not how. No. Who can get us there from 10? Whose back can I jump on it?
No, the summary
Will they even allow you to jump on, though?
The summary is that some seasons are not about advancement. It's about acquisition.
Yeah.
You need to understand what season you're in and then play to that.
I think there's all. I agree with that. We're not saying to say stalled, and we're not here to negate what anyone wants to do, right? We're saying get started, but don't think you're just gonna go 1,000 miles an hour and get where that guy is.
Well,
without there being a chance of failure. I think the issue is don't let the chance of failure hold you back, but don't ignore it either. You have to factor that into the equation. It has to make sense. Your yin and your yang has to be in there during your decision.
You know what I learned with that job that I was so impatient to leave? I realized that job was so critical for me because it was my training ground. It was a training ground that I needed for the next job that I was going to get. But I didn't complete my training.
No, yes, very true.
However,
how do you guys parse out the difference between, hey, I need to take it slow so that I can learn what I need to do, and this is an opportunity I cannot miss?
You got to ask yourself, are you willing to take on the loss if you fail at that? If you're able, I think if I take an opportunity, right? We all want the wins to come from it. That's how you have to take it, right? If it doesn't pan out and it comes crumbling out, are you okay with handling that?
But you can't just jump at every opportunity. So there's some things
that is my risk management.
One of the things.
If I feel like it's the biggest win and I really could win, but if it crumbles, I'm done. I'm finished.
But the
No,
problem,
but that's usually
I'm
what
not doing
happens
it.
with once in a lifetime
Yes.
opportunity. Although my
I'm
question
saying, what is your
wasn't
bounce back? That's what I'm trying to say.
My question wasn't in a once in a lifetime opportunity because you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Until hindsight.
Right.
Like there was this one.
Give us an example. Yeah.
Here, man, you guys need to fact check me on this, but I believe it was one of these AI software development wrappers, maybe on top of Claude or something like that. You know, there are a few of them out there. I think one guy sold for like 100 million. And then there's another company that does similar and they didn't sell. And today they're worth like $3 billion or whatever.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
But that's more of an upside, not a downside. Like the upside could have been greater. There's an upside either way, right?
I mean, it's because these are large numbers
Right,
you're
right,
looking
right.
at it. But let's use that. Hey,
yeah.
he sold it early on for like $1 million.
Right.
Okay. And now his competitor is worth $3 billion.
But what I'm trying to say is that either way, there is an upside. It's a greater upside or an upside nonetheless. That's not what I was talking about.
no,
Yeah, I mean,
you know
in
what I
this
mean?
example, they're both
Yeah,
upside
but I
because
wanna-
there's still a win.
but I want to answer your
But
question.
to him, if
They're
he was to
lost.
wake up and say, "Man, I've got $1 million in my bank account. I'm sitting on the side of the beach, but I could have had $3
That's what you
billion
have to weigh out, though.
so
Is it worth waiting and missing?
So-
so here's the
It's
thing,
all like
because I've
wait.
experienced that.
Because
You have to wait.
why I asked this question is because you don't know
You
until
don't
after
know.
the fact.
That's what I'm trying to say. You have to
Right.
be okay with it beforehand, no matter the outcome, before you make a decision.
Dude,
Okay,
Because you can't have regrets.
let's see
Yeah.
what Kay's got.
With so no, because I know exactly what you're talking about, right? Because
We
for
know.
me, I'm a big dreamer,
Yeah.
right?
We're all big.
And I've had the opportunity where somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I like what you guys are doing. $5 million right now," and you walk away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would I take $5 million? When I'm trying to build this thing to $100 million.
That's right.
No, but that's what I would have probably done if I believed it.
And guess what? When everything fell apart, I'm like, damn,
I should've. I should have.
So now, as a smarter person, even if it's so guaranteed that you're gonna get to 100 mil, because I don't have anything right now, ideas that comes in dime and a dozen. I would take that money right now and go start the next thing.
That's what I would do.
But then
when the base is good, trust me,
But
you're gonna be good.
for you. So other people may be good with that because, okay, flip it and say you won on that.
Okay.
You ended up being 100 million. You'd be like, see, I knew I shouldn't have taken
Yeah.
it.
But here's the thing.
It's hindsight.
But so
that's
here's-
why I said.
here's how
But it could also be a bad decision
Yeah.
to where
here's how I would make that decision. Would you rather have 100 mil, right? Or would you rather have 100 mil with zero or nothing? Or would you rather have 5
5
mil?
mil. No, I know.
Like I don't want to gamble.
Look, I agree with your logic, but that's also in hindsight. Because if you had got the 100 mil, you wouldn't be sitting here making this thing. You'd be like, he'd be on Instagram.
he too big for our podcast now.
You wouldn't even be like that. He'd pull up in a Lambo because you know he's a stunner. And that'd be on Instagram. Hey, sir, how much you worth? 100 mil. How'd you get
How'd you get here?
You know, I just worked
I didn't sell
I didn't sell
$5.
what it's only a 5. Some guy came up to me and you know,
So
now I'm 100 mil. See you later, valet.
If it happens to me again,
Like-
no matter what, I would take the guaranteed way
But that's
out.
hindsight. But we're trying to help these folks
Foresight.
that are possibly, in that stage of I'm just grinding here, and it feels like I'm not making progress, or it's a real slow progress. Like but maybe I need to do something different to be able to shake it up and leap, or jump into something else instead of just taking these small wins as they come.
So
right.
I'll give an example. So I had someone with PE approach me saying that
Private equity.
approaching
Subtitle.
saying that they're kind of broaching and looking for practices to acquire, develop the systems, yada,
yeah.
yada,
You
yada,
told me about
all this stuff, right? It's still it was still like in a synthesis. It wasn't like a real like offer. Yeah. So these things happen and they go nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But they hit me up a couple of times and I was like, great, okay, yeah. But then I thought about it. It's like not the first time. I've had it multiple times actually, where it didn't amount to what I wanted it to, and I put a lot of effort in it.
Mm-hmm.
This time, they were like, yeah, we need you to sign here and be exclusive to us. That was before all the everything. And I'm like, I'm signing a 10-year what? Contract? I don't see any money in here. So for me, I could have gone down that, rabbit hole and did all that. But for me, I'd rather work on the other business ideas that I have and develop those small things, because I feel like, hey, they come and go. It feels like if the first time you get it, you just, what? You tell everybody. The second time, this again is hindsight for me.
Yeah.
Because I've already been there and I'm like, man, I spent like 2 years doing that last time. And I didn't, it
same thing like Kay said, next time they give him 5, taking it without even blinking.
Take the money, bro. Always take the money, right?
Not always, well, right? Yeah. You got to do that analysis. So I think let's leave everyone with just some kind of gem from each of us.
For me, I would say this. Whether you are a business owner or you are an employee, what matters the most is for you to understand what season you are. Are you in a season of advancement, which means that you've actually acquired the skill set, or you've acquired the relationship to take that next leap? Or are you in a season of learning? So meaning that you still need to do the groundwork, right? If you are an employee, are you in a season where you need to, train more in your job? You need to get the visibility that's required. The timing is right. The incentives are there.
Right.
Or are you in a place where, everything exists, but the one thing that doesn't exist is the person that is essentially saying, hey, I believe in Kate, right? Then you can take that move. Once you know what season you're in, it makes it a lot easier for you to be at peace with whatever decision you make.
How do you identify that season real quick?
Well, easy. I mean, for me, one of the way I was able to identify this, that I was ready was that I did some day in the field. You know what day in the field is?
Mm-hmm.
When whoever is working, doing whatever job you want to do, you go sit with them and you ask them, hey, can you just show me what you're doing?
Shadowing.
And if you feel like it's complex, then you're not ready. But if you feel like everything that they're doing is something that you're quite capable of doing,
or could pick up,
or you can pick up easily, then you're ready, right?
Yeah.
And then it's not just the skill set, it's also the visibility aspect. Do you have somebody, upstairs that is essentially your cheerleader saying this person is ready? Because you can be ready, but if you don't have somebody upstairs, when I say upstairs, leadership, if you don't have somebody in leadership helping you.
It's not God.
Well, obviously God too.
Yeah.
But if you don't have somebody in leadership, just ringing your name, then you wouldn't get any opportunity.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like that. You guys know out there.
And before Alan closes, for me, I would say, never bet the whole business.
Boom.
That's it. Never bet it, because
people know what
it's there are some risks that you've got to take to be able to leap. There are those once in a lifetime opportunities that will come your way that you need to seriously evaluate and possibly jump into it. You never know. Hindsight is the only thing that will tell you whether it was right or wrong, right? But you can do it in a calculated way to where, like Alan mentioned, there's still something to fall back on.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what I would say. Don't bet the whole.
So, we talked about all this about whether moving slow or moving fast, take the small wins versus the big ones. And, we've all been talking about hindsight, and it's 2020. The biggest shortcut to hindsight is find someone who's been there so you borrow their hindsight. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this podcast and you like what you hear, make sure you like it and subscribe and follow and share it. All of the above, but make sure you can find us where? Where can you find us?
They can find us at GoBeyondTheGrind.com.
GoBeyondTheGrind.com. Until next time, peace.
Tools to make strategic decisions and take calculated risks. We'll also talk about future-proofing your business so you can build a lasting legacy and true freedom. This isn't a one-sided conversation. We're all on this journey together to build a life and a business that works.